Hey everyone, welcome back. Flying V here with another deck tech video. Today we're going to be looking at Orah Skyclave, the new legendary cleric from Zendikar Rising. Orah is a 4-mana 3/3 with lifelink, and he also reads whenever Orah or another cleric we control dies, we get to return another target cleric with less converted mana cost from the graveyard to our battlefield. So this is obviously going to synergize with clerics really well, and we're going to try to capitalize on this ability by sacrificing our own clerics and generating even more value. The strength of this deck is going to come from our ability to control the board. We are going to be able to cycle through our deck very efficiently, and that's going to allow us to find our combo pieces and eventually combo out. Some things we're going to be weak to is that since we're going to be playing out of our graveyard, we definitely don't want anybody playing around in there. With clerics, we're going to have low creature stats, so if we fall behind on the board and removal, we might have a hard time trying to fight back for that board position. And finally, outside of a few pieces of removal, we're not going to have much in the way of stack play, so any kind of spell-based deck, we're going to have a hard time disrupting them and what they want to do. We're going to start things off by going over some of the utility cards we're bringing along in this deck, and the first of those is Conspiracy. Conspiracy is a 5-mana enchantment that reads, as Conspiracy comes into play, we get to choose a creature type. Creature cards that we own that aren't in play, creature spells, and creatures we control are the chosen type. Now most of our creatures are already clerics themselves, but we want to make sure that anything leaving the battlefield on our side of the play is going to be classified as a cleric and is able to trigger the ability of our commander. Next we have Preacher. He's a 3-mana 1/1, and he comes along with the ability that we can tap him, and for as long as Preacher remains tapped, we get to gain control of target creature of an opponent's, but he or she gets to choose the creature if they have more than one. Then on our untap step, we are going to have the option to choose whether we want to untap Preacher or not. So this is going to give us the ability to take one of our opponent's creatures, and if we happen to have Conspiracy in play, sacrifice that creature and even be able to trigger our commander's ability. This is going to come in as one of the more expensive cards in the deck, but considering how many friends you're going to make by playing Preacher, I don't think there's a price you can put on that. Then possibly one of the best clerics in the game, we have Mother of Runes. Mother is a 1-mana 1/1, and she has the ability to tap, and target creature we control is going to gain protection from the color of our choice until the end of turn. When Mother of Runes comes into play, our opponents are going to have one turn to deal with her before her tap ability comes online. After that, it's usually going to take 2 removal spells in order to remove our 1-mana 1/1. Edgewalker easily finds a spot in this deck. He is a 3-mana 2/2, and his ability is going to allow us to play our cleric spells for 1 white and 1 black less. Sin Collector is a 3-mana 2/1 who we hope to be able to recast from our graveyard several times. Sin Collector reads, when Sin Collector enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it and exile that card. And wrapping up in utility, we have Rotlung Reanimator. He is a 3-mana 2/2, and whenever Rotlung Reanimator or another cleric is put into a graveyard from play, we're going to get to create a 2/2 black zombie creature. This is going to be really good because we're going to be trying to sacrifice a lot of our clerics, and this guy is going to help us replenish that board and keep something on the board whenever we do that. Now, I've already said it several times, so let's go ahead and take a look at the cards that's going to allow us to sacrifice our creatures. Starting with our artifacts, we have Ashnod's Altar and Altar of Dementia. Ashnod's Altar is probably one of the best sack outlets in the game, costing 3 mana and just allowing us to sacrifice the creature and add 2 colorless to our mana pool. And then Altar of Dementia, it's going to cost us 2 mana, and we're also going to be able to sacrifice the creature, but then target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. Now this can work really well in our deck, because we get to sacrifice a creature and then mill some cards from our deck into our graveyard, hopefully putting more clerics into that graveyard. Now we're also running several clerics that are also going to give us the ability to sacrifice our creatures. First up we have Ollie, Eternal Pilgrim. She is a 2-mana 2/3 with Death Touch, and one of her abilities is going to allow us to pay 1 and sacrifice another creature and then we're going to gain life equal to that sacrificed creature's toughness. And then her second ability reads, we can pay 3, sacrifice another creature, and then we're going to get to exile a target non-land permanent. We can only activate this ability if we have 10 more life than our starting life total, so try not to get too worked up over this ability, because any extra life we're going to gain, there's a good chance we're going to end up giving that back at some point. Next we have Cabal Archon. He is a 3 mana 2/2, and for 1 black we can sacrifice a cleric and target player is going to lose 2 life, and then we're going to gain 2 life. And finally, a card only we could love, we have Whisper Blood Liturgist. He is a 4 mana 2/2, 4 mana being important for us, that we can tap, sacrifice 2 creatures, and then we get to return a target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. What makes this work in our deck is that if we have our commander in play, we're going to be able to sacrifice Whisper plus 1 other cleric hopefully, and instead of returning 1 creature card from our graveyard, we're going to be able to turn 3 creatures from our graveyard. In order to keep our deck running, we're going to need access to a lot of card draw, so let's go ahead and take a look at that now. All of our card draw is going to be reoccurring, and it's going to have a chance to draw us multiple cards. First, looking at our creatures, we have Taborax, Hope's Demise. Taborax is a 3 mana 2/2 with flying, and he's also going to gain lifelink as long as he has 5 or more +1/+1 counters on him. He also reads, whenever another non-token creature we control dies, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on Taborax, and if that creature was a cleric, we have the option to draw a card, and if we do, we're going to lose 1 life. We should be able to get Taborax up to his 5 counters so he can gain that lifelink, but even if we can't, we're not going to let this 1 damage scare us away from drawing these cards. Grim Pex is going to work in a similar way for 3 mana. Whenever another non-token creature we control dies, we're going to draw another card. Harvester of Souls comes in as a 5/5 with Death Touch for 6 mana, and he is a little different. The key takeaway here is that whenever another non-token creature dies, we may draw a card. So this is going to work off of our board and our opponent's board, and it does give us the option to not draw the card if we don't want to, which might be important late game. Wrapping up our card draw, we have a couple enchantments to show off. First we have Phyrexian Arena, and then Dark Prophecy. Phyrexian Arena is a 3 mana enchantment that simply reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Dark Prophecy is going to cost you 3 black, and it reads, whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. After drawing so many cards, we're eventually going to come across our combo pieces, so we're going to take a look at those and see how it plays out. First up is our 2-card combo, starting with Leonin Relic Warder. He is a 2 mana 2/2 that reads, when Leonin enters the battlefield, you may exile target artifact or enchantment. He also reads, when Leonin leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. But we actually need Leonin to be in our graveyard before we can actually start this combo. We're also going to need the enchantment Animate Dead. Animate Dead is going to cost you 2 mana, and it uses a lot of words to say that when it enters the battlefield, we get to choose a creature in our graveyard, return it to the battlefield, attach Animate Dead to that creature, but when Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, we must sacrifice that creature. It also reads the enchanted creature is going to get -1, -0. So we cast Animate Dead, targeting our Leonin, attaching Animate Dead to Leonin, and then returning him to the battlefield. This in turn is going to trigger Leonin's first ability, and we may exile target artifact or enchantment. We're going to choose to exile Animate Dead. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, it's going to force us to sacrifice our Leonin, triggering his second ability, returning Animate Dead to the battlefield. So now we are in the same exact position we were before we started the combo. The only thing we need to win the game from here is either Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat. Both of these are going to deal 1 damage to our opponents and let us gain 1 life every time Leonin leaves the battlefield. We also have a sorcery and Final Parting that's going to set this combo up perfectly for us. This is going to cost 5 mana, and it says search your library for 2 cards, put 1 into your hand and the other 1 into your graveyard. So this is going to allow us to tutor for Leonin and Animate Dead, and even put Leonin in our graveyard for us. Now if your group doesn't like playing with tutors, you can definitely take this card out and the deck is going to work just fine. So this next combo is a little more complicated, but I'll do my best to try to explain it here. For this to work, we're going to need Ashnod's Altar, Priest of Gix, and Nim Death Mantle. Priest of Gix is a 3 mana 2/1 that reads when he enters the battlefield, we're going to get to add 3 black mana to our mana pool. Nim Death Mantle is a 2 mana equipment that reads equipped creature gets +2/+2 and it has Intimidate and is a black zombie. It also reads whenever a non-token creature is put into our graveyard, we may pay 4, and if we do, we get to return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Death Mantle to it. Now there's a few different ways this could go, but for the sake of explaining it here, we're going to act like we're going to have all these on the board and 2 mana available to us. We're going to start by sacrificing our Priest of Gix to Ashnod's Altar, adding 2 colorless to our mana pool. This is going to trigger Nim Death Mantle, and we're going to pay the 4 to activate it, returning Priest of Gix and attaching the Death Mantle to it. When Priest of Gix returns to the battlefield, we're going to add 3 black mana to our mana pool, and now we're in the exact same spot we were before we started the combo, except we were able to pick up 1 black mana in the process. Just like the previous combo, all we need to have is something like Zulaport Cutthroat on the field, and we're going to be able to win the game right here. But since this combo is also generating mana for us, if we're able to draw cards, we should be able to draw cards until we find him, and then have the mana to play him. And starting to wrap things up, we're going to take a quick look at the spells and ramp we're going to have access to. Coming in at 9 board wipes and targeted removal, we're not running much in the way of spells, but we are definitely looking to control the board in other ways, like the 5 mana enchantment Dictate of Erebos. Whenever this is on the board, whenever one of our creatures dies, it's going to force our opponents to sacrifice one of their creatures. And with the amount of clerics we're going to have leaving and entering the battlefield, we shouldn't have any problem keeping the board nice and manageable for us. With our low mana curve, we're going to try to get away with just running 6 pieces of artifact ramp, but we are also trying to support these with Smothering Tithe and Black Market. Together we shouldn't have any issue being able to play our cards. And if you're looking to upgrade this deck, we're going to have a few easy ways to do that. The first one being is we could just simply add in more tutors to find our combo pieces. Or you could even take a look at the land base and your artifact ramp and card draw. Well, I think that about covers it for the Cleric Commander. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I definitely hope you guys enjoyed the deck. If you did, hit that like button or let me know down there in the comments what you thought. I'll have a link to my new Twitter down there in the description, so feel free to go over there and toss me a follow or tweet at me what you thought. Until next time, we'll see you later.